This seems like a pretty good guide. Pros and cons, stats and skills, breakpoints. Yeah, this is pretty decent. Oh, what a fun thing. He suggests to use a sacred armor just for style points. I like that. And lots of PvP info, and even goes into specific things for keybinds. That's pretty cool. I like that. And then he even have a Trang-oul set. So let's see what the comments are. Always good to kinda, get a second opinion. Okay, not very good there. Oh dear, even worse. More complaining just because he doesn't suggest a crafted build and a sacred armor. They really didn't like that one. Can't be worse than this one so far. Just people bitching. Oh god, it gets even worse, yes. He doesn't understand the Crown of Ages for max block. Yeah, PvP setup. Oh god, it's not even a real item. Yeah, it is a real item, but whatever. It's just for fun. Oh god. Enigma, if you want to be taken seriously, then use one in a sacred armor. Oh really? Elder's Advance, my favorite boots in the game. You want the mace too? Why are these people so fucking rude? Seriously, Elder's boots, awesome boots. And then he even talks about mirror walls being a terrible choice. No, that's fine. It's good for max block, whatever. People really don't like guides, it seems. Maybe I should stop reading the comments as well. Hello everybody, today we are finally taking a look at the revamped Poison Nova Necromancer for 2017. So about 2 years ago I had this build all done, but I revamped it now, both with suggestions over the years from you guys commenting, and also just the little intro there and my own opinions of how I wanted to improve the build from 2 years ago. But without further ado, I hope you will enjoy this build. I'm definitely a bit hyped now to kind of try it out. I will also have another video soon out where I kind of talk about how I geared it up and kind of how I play the game. If you're kind of interested in that, I just wanted to mention that, so it can be kind of like a two-parter. But if you also want me to see, do more content with any of the Necromancer builds that I've done, if you want to see like a maybe even PvP or more PvM, feel free to say so. So let's start the guide off with some nice old gameplay. The idea behind the rotation is very simple, just like most Necromancer builds, especially the Bone Necromancer. You do your main curse, in my case this is lower resist, at a radius of almost 16, it's very big, it almost fills up the entire screen, which is very cool to look at. Also just kind of to pull mobs, they get armored, whatever. Then you hit your Poison Nova, and then you hit your corpse explosion, but you don't really need the corpse explosion all the time, but it is a handy thing for higher health mobs. Also another thing is that I really suggest you only, if you're not really into summons or whatever, that you should only use revives and then your clay golem. But that's just my opinion, because again, I'm not really that much into summons, even though this is a Necromancer build. But I just wanted to mention that I do only use revive and clay golem. But yeah, very simple rotation, and again I can just try to find a little pack again. Boom, boom, and then just corpse explosion all over the screen. It's fun and easy. There's only a few minor things that I can probably comment a little bit about for the specific gameplay. You could, instead of using clay golem, you could use the iron golem with an insight. A lot of people have been suggesting that to me over the years, and I totally agree, because god, it uses a lot of mana, this build. 22 mana cost just from the curse, 20 mana cost from Poison Nova, 48 mana from corpse explosion, 19 mana from teleport. This build burns through mana so fast, so if you don't want to bother with the mana problems, or you would maybe be okay with not having the highest possible damage on your corpse explosion part, whatever, you could go in an insight merc. I'm kind of fine with that. I don't really want to suggest insight or infinity, whatever is best. That's kind of up to yourself. But with that, let's move on to the stats. I suggest that you use a Mage Blade Enigma, and then you consider what shield you want to use. If you want to use a Spirit Shield, if you want to use, a Trang-oul shield, anything of those sort of variations gonna work. So for the most part, you have to plan ahead your gear to kind of know what strength you want to aim for. I put some dexterity in to get 50% block with Trang-oul. With the homunculus shield I get like 55% currently, and I think storm shield is about 50 to 55% as well. But Trang-oul is not gonna give me that much block, so if you want to max block, I would probably just suggest you use a homunculus shield, which is the one that I used in my old guide. And then I put the rest of the points into vitality. Now, for the resistance, that's definitely the fun part. We need to talk a bit about resistance, definitely. It's quite hard. You can see this ring here helps me cap a lot because of the 20 resistance on that one. Then I even use a really weird ring here. It's not very good, but it has a lot of resistance on it. These items are just highly needed if you're gonna cap, because even my inventory is full of resist as well. You're easily gonna cap on cold resistance due to having the 3 parts Trang-oul, and even without the 3 parts Trang-oul, I think it's gonna be doable anyways. But yeah, the fire resistance is also pretty easy if you're gonna be using Elder's boots. And then I'm also using some really sweet jewels in this helm here. But if you have no problem with budget and you can get the really good stuff, you can get a 20 plus all resistance amulet with the needed 20% faster cast rate. But such an amulet is gonna cost, a ton. I can't afford that. So, but yeah, if you can get such an amulet, you're gonna be easily capping resistance without too much worry. It's sort of like using a Mara's amulet, that is always such a big survival help. Yeah, in life, I think it's gonna be like 2200 life or something for battle orders, and then defense is also gonna be a little low. It could be a little bit higher if you were using other items, but yeah, it helps using at least Trang-oul's, which has a little more defense than normal shields. At least it has a little more defense than Spirit, and then Storm Shield is very good for PvP setup, but that kinda depends if you're gonna be PvPing on it or whatever. So with the complicated stats out of the way, let's get to luckily the simplest part of the guide, the build. So the Poison Nova Necromancer is profound to have one of the most simplest builds, kinda like a Yavason, where you put all points into synergies and then you end up with very little points left that you can spend elsewhere. You max Poison Nova, Poison Explosion and Poison Dagger. Already there 60 points are gone, and then you also want to just put 1 point into each of the skillers minus Bone Spirit. And then we come to summoning. All points or all skills you need to put 1 into just for synergies, and then you put remaining points or maybe all your points, you kind of depends how much you like revive or whatever, into revive. I choose 15 just because that's a nice clean even number, and yeah, I don't think I really need more than 15 mobs on the screen. You could even use the raised skeletons and the raised skeletal mage beside revive, but I feel like just using revives only as my summons are plenty. But yeah, 1 point into everything. And let's talk about curses then. This is a little more complicated compared to the other 2 trees. All the other curses are no use at all ever, pretty much. They're all kind of situational and kind of meh. The only one that we really care about is lower resist. The radius is so big on these curses when you put a lot of points into them. But here comes the fun part. At a certain point, there is just kind of like a roadblock, a point where it doesn't really help to put points into something that lowers the resistance of mobs. And I think that is like minus 55 or something, where it doesn't seem to help much more if I remember correctly. Anyways, I choose to just get up to 22 because then I get minus 61 and almost a radius of 15, and I felt that was plenty. So yeah, I just stopped at level 16th point, and that was it for the build. Very simple, and like if you feel like you know, you don't really want to put more than 1 point into curse, you could perhaps try to get better summons, and if you feel like you don't really need a strong bone armor, you save a few points there as well. You could even get a weaker Poison Nova without putting so many points into the synergies, and get some, you know, really strong skeletons and all those sort of things, or even just a very strong clay golem with golden mastery. It's kind of like up to yourself how you want to do this. I just personally prefer not to use summons that much for this specific build. So yeah, a few choices there, and it's kinda, you know, straightforward if you just follow my build. Okay, so finally we're gonna take a look at the gear setup. I want to show the stash first so we can kinda get an idea of all the different setups that you can use besides just going with the Trang-oul setup. You could go as far as even considering PvP if you're into that, so that would be using stuff like Storm Shield, maybe even a Crown of Ages for damage reduction. Homunculus is very good for max block. I can just show the difference between the three shields now. As you can see, right now I have 50% block. Storm Shield is also at 50, but then comes Homunculus at 54, so you get that nice little extra bump from Homunculus, besides having, you know, what can you say, a mid-tier amount of defense. It's definitely not as high as Storm Shield, but it's still pretty good. Also, another thing with Homunculus is that it has an amazing amount of resistance. Like even the mana regen, the energy, everything is just very tailored towards Necromancer, spamming a lot of things and needing that resistance. But this is for max PVM setup damage, so I am not going to really, you know, have to focus of this build on that, because I really wanted to make the setup with 3 parts Trang-oul work, and I think I have done that so far at least. But yeah, a lot of people suggest to never use Death's Web and only use Heart of Oak, just because it gives that nice amount of faster cast rate and resistance, whereas Death's Web is only damage, and I actually tend to agree. You lose a lot of stats if you use Death's Web, and you don't really gain anything but damage. It's kind of silly to even consider using it, but if you are able to get 125% faster cast rate with Death's Web anyways, why not go for it? But yeah, I can just quickly show the setup with the with the Heart of Oak setup. I think it was using 2 Stone of Jordans, and I think it was, yeah, Morris Amulet as well, and a Rack Belt. So this is the setup most people would probably consider for like PvP, max damage, or even just normal gameplay if they're not gonna be using 3 parts Trang-oul. So Trang-oul gloves is the, you know, the only part, and then 2 Stone of Jordans and a Rock build. Boots doesn't really matter, but again, Elder's boots is just very nice, especially because Spirit doesn't have fire resist on it. And yeah, and Spirit Shield, Enigma, Heart of Oak is very good for the resistance. And then, you know, you could even go as far as using a Shaco, because I think you're able to cap resistance without this one in any gear setup, even without you know, my inventory currently. So you could perhaps go with like a Shaco, which is very nice for survival and stuff like that. And then of course a Morris Amulet. You know, if you're not a madman, and if you just kind of want to, you know, cruise along and have a decent setup that doesn't cost too much, this setup honestly with a Shaco is probably just the way to go, if I have to be completely honest. But it's like, it's hard to tell, and I just really want to make the Trang-oul's 3 parts work. But let's move on. So while I'm looking over the gearing setup, I probably should mention that I'm of course always trying to aim for 125% faster cast rate, but I'm thinking back to the Hammer Paladin I did recently. You don't really need, you know, 125% faster cast rate on a Paladin and you for sure don't need it on this build either. So if you just wanted to cruise along, have fun, you know, build a cheap build, something that's not that high end, you could actually just go with yeah, I'm trying to think something instead of Arak's belt, you know, could use something else than that, and 2 soy rings, and yeah, you know, just having something really cheap, no real focus on faster cast rate at all. But for this specific build, or this guide, I want to at least show off the 125% faster cast rate setup with Trang-ouls and Death's Whip. Another thing I should probably also mention is that I try to get just a little bit of faster hit recovery. I think I have like 15 in total only, but it's just enough to just get a little bit. A lot of people for PvP, they will try to use something like a spirit sword with maybe max block and a lot of damage reduction. That is a decent choice, because you kind of have to get a lot of faster hit recovery on a Necromancer to make the faster hit recovery breakpoints tables work, because the breakpoints for that sort of stuff on a Necromancer is pretty bad, so you would have to get quite a lot. But yeah, that's very PvP specific, I suppose, but I'm at least just trying to get a little bit of faster hit recovery as well for PVM. But yeah, making this Death's Whip Trang-oul 3-part set is just not easy, but let's get to it. So the Trang-oul gloves, you could get these as perfect defense if you wanted to, that is 74. Then I'm using this nice little ring here with some strength, which helps for the Monarch setup. A bit of life and some lightning resistance on it, which helps a lot on the resistance capping. Trang-ouls. This belt here has a lot of variable stats. I think it's both defense and mana, and I don't think it was anything else in those two, but still, if you can get a perfect Trang-oul's belt, like, that's pretty cool. It's a nice little aim. And then another faster cast rate ring. We needed to get to 115 to 125%. Ideally, I would have liked to at least just use 1 Stone of Jordan, but yeah, in this case I can't. But yeah, this ring is just all about resistance for me, and a little bit of strength and life is always fun. And then we can move on to boots. The best boots in the game, Elder's boots. Now, if you really had the wealth, you know, if you could blow like 100, 200, 350, whatever on some tri-resist boots that has like 30% one walk, 10% faster hit recovery, maybe even like half freeze duration like the ones I have on my Yabasan, that is a very nice choice. I just don't think I would want to spend that much wealth on boots, because it doesn't really matter too much, and Elders is just very nice with the life and the fire resistance, and the other stats are also just very high end, especially the 40% faster one wall, which is the highest on boots that you can get. And then we move on to Trang-oul's shield, or the trophy even. Of course I'm using a die 5-5, kinda had to. And then, you know, it has a lot of blocking, but it doesn't have a higher percent of blocking than Trang-oul, so it kind of fools you into thinking it's a good blocking shield. And then luckily it comes with fire resistance and poison, which helps capping a lot. And then it even has some nice strength and dexterity, like it is pretty good. But the main reason why we are using Trang-oul's shield together with the belt and gloves is the set bonus. Minus 25 enemy poison resistance. I can just quickly remove the gloves now, and you can see the set bonus is gone. But if I put it on again, we get the minus enemy poison resistance. So this works on top of the lower resist. I think the game first calculates either lower resist first or the shield set bonus first. I can't quite remember what radius or what can you say rotation the game calculates it in. But if you're into more nerdy, you know, complicated math stuff, I'm sure you can find some formulas for how the game works in that regard. But yeah, let's see about the amulet. The cheapest amulet that I could get that has a 220 stats, you need the 20% faster cast rate, and getting 20% faster cast rate 2 Necromancer skill already there it's a very hard thing to craft, and it's already expensive. Like I think I had to pay like 25 FG just for this crap one. Like already there, you know, it's a lot. Like for 25 FG, you can get a perfect perfect depth sweep, at least on my server. So you can see this one is, you know, no, not quite perfect, but yeah, in a perfect in a way that it at least has the +2 to Poison Nova Necromancer skills, and then it has -55 enemy. So yeah, the choice for the amulet kind of had to be a cheap one in my case. And then I still use my old little helm here. Now ideally, and I can probably just find a picture now and pop it up and kind of show you a cool little helmet, but ideally you would get a better helm than this one that has, you know, I like to call them 220-30 helms. Getting that extra faster one walk is just very good, but like this helm is also very fine and it has 20% faster cast rate, so it's totally good, you know. Yeah, making it work with a limited budget somewhat. And then of course we're using a spirit and a monarch. Oh yeah, cult arms even, sorry. And then let's take the inventory. A bit of faster hit recovery again, just to get just a little bit. And this amulet or this small gem here is actually pretty nice for just general resistance. And then, you know, decent enough life on the charms here does help a lot in survival. And then a lot of lightning resistant small charms to cap lightning resistance, which is the one that I really needed to cap. And then a good amount of resistance on both the Anelius and the torch. I really just like to value getting resistance on these two ones over stats, but of course if you can afford both things, go for that. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers the standard gear. So again, I really just want to make these 4 items work together. I know you sacrifice so much to make Dev Sweep and 3 parts Trang-oul work, but like, if you just want to have fun, just go with the setup that I showed before with Herd of Oak, and like, yeah, there's a lot of options, like even stuff like the max block for PvM, like Crown of Ages, even trying something like Marrow's Walk just to get that 17 to dexterity more. All those sort of variations work. However, let's get to a little fun one here. You see this bramble here? Like, of course it's not a very good roll, 42 poison and 16 aura, like it's not very good. But I swear to God, don't use a bramble. I don't even care if you have the perfect one lying around somewhere in your stats. Just don't bother using it. Of course it's fun to put on bramble. You see I have 10k now, and if I put it on I get 12k. Of course it's a lot of fun to put bramble on, but you're gonna lose out on Enigma. Teleport is so important. The strength helps a lot for just, you know, general strength usage, and like Enigma is just very needed. Another thing is also, I have tried to sell this specific armor here for like 5 years, maybe 4 years. No one has ever bothered to purchase. I've probably shown this chest to at least 50 people. 50! And no one has ever bothered to buy it. I know I'm 1 year of non-ladder. People only want the perfect epic items. They don't want that shit roll. But this just also goes to show how unpopular Bramble is in general. That is why I can't, you know, with a smile on my face, suggest this one. Just don't bother with it. I would even rather say that you should consider Viper Magic over Bramble just for a different gear setup. Like again, try to get this one Ubert as well, just for a lot of defense. But yeah, nobody wants to buy my Bramble. So it's time for some conclusion to end the video. There's a little bit of a debate between maxing low resist or not, and also how conviction works and all that stuff. In general, I just want to say that I rarely, if ever, face mobs that I can't break with immunities with lower resist. It doesn't really matter if you're using Death's Whip or Trang-ouls or whatever duels. It just seems to break with infinity and lower resist without the items helping it. Of course, there are a few mobs here and there that I don't break from poison immunity, but still. And even those can be killed by my merc doing okay amount of damage, so I can start using corpse explosion. For one example, I went down to Maggot's lair just before, and as you can see, some of these are not always broken. But I was able to find an elite pack down there in Maggot's lair, and I actually did break the immunity on that one. But certain things here, like these blood maggots, are just not gonna be broken, and that's sort of the deal behind it. You know, different acts have higher difficulty mobs, their levels and whatnot, but for the most part you're pretty safe to kind of be able to break all the immunities in the game. So that's a pretty sweet thing to be able to do. Yeah, I think we can just do a bit of gameplay now to kind of just show some speed. There's just a slight little wait before the Poison Nova kills the mobs, but as soon as it happens, boom boom, everything just dies. And it doesn't really matter if I don't have, you know, corpse explosion fully maxed. I find that I'm okay without putting points into even corpse explosion. Again, I also have a pretty high skill of it because of the, you know, the plus skills in general on my gear and the inventory. But yeah, I really just like this setup here. It works until my merc dies for some reason there. Oh my god, it got close to dying there. That looked fun. I wonder why that happened. But yeah, I really just like it so far. I think it is slower to a certain degree than a straight up bone necromancer, just because that corpse explosion again, we are relying on it still, and I think that the bone necromancer can perhaps proc it a little bit faster. I'm not really sure how that, you know, the debate between which build is the best one, but it's like hard to tell, I suppose. In general, I do like it. Now I'm showing a bit of a shitty gameplay here, like it's 2014 again with the gameplay. Always playing so poorly, but yeah, the merc died there. I'm not really sure why it did that. But yeah, I think we can just do the little pack up here and the other one down there, and we can end the video. You know, even if the mobs are kind of spread it out like this, you know, where the cursor is going now, they just die from this corpse explosion at radius of 13.6. It's really just fine having only, well, only 34 points into corpse explosion. In general, the build just works. There's really nothing more to say than that. I should, however, mention, and I haven't really found a solution to it yet, the boss damage is absolutely horrendous. I did test it out on Bale some time ago, and I think it was like 4 days ago I went to Bale when the build was done, or I had stopped leveling and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. I'm not even gonna show the footage of that. You know, killing Bale, that's like 30 minutes long. That's how slow it is. I can just quickly go to Diablo now. I am sure it's gonna be slow. Maybe even as much as 10 seconds or something. But yeah, let's see about it. Now the merc dies again, so that's actually perfect. Now I can truly show just how slow boss damage this does. Because again, Poison Nova just takes slowly. It's not very good for bosses. And then we only have Bone Spear as the, you know, the extra damage that we can do. But as you see here, it's just so slow. I mean, it's stupid Diablo. Literally anything can kill him in a few hits. Oh, and now I'm screwing up the screen there, sorry. But I just can't take the boss damage seriously. It just goes so slow on a bone necromancer. But yeah, expect at least 20 to 30 seconds kill time on Bale, no matter gear setups. That's just kind of the deal with this build. But the boss, you know, the general AoE damage even is there. the damage on top of Corpse Explosion is very good. Again, we can sometimes finish off packs without even having to rely on Corpse Explosion ever. But yeah, I think that pretty much rounds it up. Again, if you have any ideas for other builds you might want to see or anything like that, feel free to say so, and stay tuned for more of this Necromancer. At least we'll do another build or another video for it, so feel free to watch that as well when it will come out. And as always, thank you for watching and have a good one.